Hello everyone, welcome back for another book review. So today we are talking about this book. So this is the Book of Kitchen Witchery, Spells, Recipes, and Rituals for Magical Meals, An Enchanted Garden, and a Happy Home. This is written by Cerridwen Greenleaf. Somebody else had made a review of this, was like, I'm pretty sure that's not their given name, and yeah. So to start off this review, we're going to talk about the actual book, like, material itself. So it's really a not huge book. The size of it is one of the like taller ones, but the thing I like is that even though it's a paperback, it has the little flappy flaps so that you have kind of a, I use these as a built-in bookmarker, so I can just be like, oh, I'm on this page, boom, done. It's a little thing, but it's the little things in life that matter. Also, the artwork is absolutely stunning. I mean, it has got like this watercolor, just cute design. I love it. And it doesn't really take away from the book. There's been some that we've talked about that it feels like it's just like a little overpowering. This I felt like was fine. It is just really pretty. So initially I wasn't sure where I was gonna put this review. Is it for beginners or is it for the advanced? Okay, I never really put it for advanced much. But the way they weren't explaining a lot of things, I'm like, is it supposed to be for like maybe intermediate to advanced? But then it would also talk so basic that it was like, it's gotta be for beginners. And then I wondered if this would be more of a book that if you're into kitchen witchery and your family's curious what you're doing, is this a book you hand them that's pretty easy to digest? You know they're not going to really research anything, but it just gives them kind of an overview of what you're doing, which is what I was leaning towards for a majority of this book. Because it's nothing revolutionary, it doesn't really go into a lot of detail about anything in particular. It is definitely just kind of an intro book on the topic. However, things did change. So to start off with, a few people have mentioned this in other books, and this was the first one I really could appreciate that stance, and that is to give warnings when you are using herbs. Now for the most part, when you think of kitchen witchery, you're not going to think of the ingredients in your household being a problem. However, there was a number of these saying that it would help with cancer, and it would help with diabetes and controlling your blood sugar, which the average person probably is going to go, no, and talk to their doctor about it, or do a little more research before they start to use that in any way. But not everyone will, and to just label it like very explicitly like this is great to use to manage like your sugar and your glucose, and it's been used for type 2 diabetes. Bit of a red flag. Let alone some of the other ones. Like, it's just one of those things, like, you really should be cautious saying that and have like big warnings about like, hey, it's been shown to do this, but definitely chat with your doctor, because obviously. And some herbs you don't even realize could be a problem until you look it up. For a book on kitchen witchery where you're using herbs, I feel like if any book is going to be very cautious of what you're using, it would be for kitchen witchery, of like, hey man, these things you need to be a little careful about. I know it's not a book on herbology, but still maybe like a little bit more, and like a little bit more of a warning, because in a lot of the reviews, especially on Amazon, everyone's just raving, but they're all very new. Like a majority of them are all new at this, and it's like, I hope that you pick up better books if you're gonna continue that do warn you about that before you know. So that was like my first red flag of like, And around that point, I also did break my rule, but I didn't mean to. I got distracted because the cover was really pretty, and so I bought this book. And then I realized it didn't come from one of the publishing houses that we've talked about that like you gotta be careful about, but it had really good reviews. So, and the author actually had like a bio, so it was kind of like, maybe. But that's just another thing of like, because we've talked about this, I have certain things that it does make it difficult when you buy online. But there are things that I feel like I need to have when I buy witchy books, which is, it needs to come from typically a reputable, like, publishing house. Self-publishing is a hit or miss. I'm way more lenient with fiction than I am with witchcraft. Not that there's necessarily a problem, but you just kind of want to vet that a little bit more. And if there's no info on like the author, there's not like an about the author page is a red flag. Also, if there's no references. If a witchcraft reference book does not include their sources and recommended readings, red flag. There is none. Which usually leads me to believe 90% of their stuff is just Google searches, which if you could do that, why couldn't somebody else? So that's like a me thing. That was a my bad. And then there's just like a handful of things that I figured we're just gonna do this one video. I thought about doing an extended discussion on Patreon for this, but honestly, there's only just like a little bit for this book, so we're just gonna talk about it here. So there was only one quote to really talk about specifically, and it's that I don't know how much this author actually knows, really. So on page 22, she says, the best times to release any and all bad luck are on Friday the 13th. Fair. Sure. Or on any waxing moon. Feel like that's a no. And at the very least should say it's not typically done at this time, but I found but they don't, which just begs the question, how much does this author actually know and actually researched? Because it is very rare that the moon phases have that drastic of a shift that releasings and banishings are done on a waxing moon. Pretty much everyone is on the Bandcamp of the waxing is for encouraging and growing and like the beginnings of stuff, manifesting. And the waning is to get rid of stuff and banish things and release stuff. One thing I do gotta admit, I do want to try this, and that is on page 66, which is the Merry Meet Medieval Brew. And I'm thinking maybe like autumn Samhain time. I don't know if it's medieval, really, but it sounds like a fun recipe to try. It's a different twist on the sort of Halloween Samhain brew. I reference this often, it seems like, but Charming Pixie Flora had a video on a witch's brew to make. And it had a lot of the same ingredients or similar ingredients, but this was one where I was like, ooh, I've never thought to cook wine. Like, I mean, I've done it in like a pot roast, but for like a drink, maybe. So that was one thing that I'm like, I could try it. So the one thing with this author is that she definitely is Wiccan. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but with that in mind, if it's coming from a very Wiccan author stance, you would expect the harm none law to be kind of a big deal. Now, if you're going into just witchcraft in general and different traditions, it sometimes is applicable, sometimes not. Most witches tend to adopt it to some degree. How they interpret that is different. But on a whole, like, actual Wiccans are gonna follow it. And this author, reading through it, you're like, yeah, you're Wiccan. Nothing wrong with that. Again, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, she's probably Wiccan. But anyways, that said, because it's so heavily Wiccan based, when you get to the section on love spells, which is always a red flag, the red flags be flying. So I picked 2 out of them, and I mean the spells were all kind of like this, so just like keep that in mind. But these 2 in particular was just like, really? So we have the Art of Spellbinding, Knotted Heartstrings. I took a picture of the page so I can just easily reference it here. And so on a small piece of paper, write the name of the person whose affection you seek in red ink, and then you do the rest of the spell. I'm not gonna read the whole spell. But then you have words that you say, and this is where you're like, that feels sketch. 1 not to seek my love, 1 to find my love, 1 to bring my love, 1 to bind my love, forever bound together as one, so mote it be this charm is done. Maybe we shouldn't be binding people that you want, but it's not reciprocated. And like forever bound, like you need to have like the escape clause written in there somewhere. Even in ours for our handfesting, we're legally and like spiritually marrying and like binding our lives together. And yet we have the clause of so long as love remains for a reason. And also, it isn't specifying like don't do it on a specific person. It's kind of the opposite. Free will, consent, that stuff matters. And then we got the other one here. So we've got this page going on. This is page 15. And yes, you can tell that in my picture, I'm wearing my same Halloween shirt because it's after my birthday. It's now Halloween time. So this is Gypsy Love Herbs. Honestly, you could even go down like cultural appropriation route. I'm not in this video, but that is an option for people who want to argue about that point. Anyways, many a gypsy woman has enjoyed the fruits of long-lasting love by reciting the following charm while mixing rye and pimento, I have no idea what that is, into a dish shared with the object of her affection. Because, you know, a person is an object. Then you get onto the wording. Rye of earth, pimento of fire. Eaten surely lights desire. Serve he whose love I crave, and his heart I will enslave. Listen, I know that rhyming can be rough. I get it. I have a degree in writing. But my dude, what? Like, you're literally having a book over here saying that because you want this person, you're going to enslave their heart. It sounds like something out of a Disney movie, and you're a villain from the 90s. You know, back when the villains were actually a villain. Like, what are you doing, dude? Which, honestly, that's when it kind of started to revert back. And it was like, okay, maybe this author actually thinks witches are kind of play pretend. Or, like, I don't know, because, like, just that wording really tripped me up. Like, I'm marrying a person. I would never want to enslave his heart, you know, and his affection. If he doesn't want to love me, why would you waste your energy on someone who doesn't want you? Move on. Somebody else will want you, and you will be happier in the long run. Like, the fact that consent is just so far out the window, it's across the country at this point, is kind of ridiculous. And then there was other things in this book. There's a number of recipes for creating alcohol, which I feel sketchy about. I don't know how to make alcohol. I have known a few people who have made beers and wines and mead and different stuff over the years. And the thing they always say is that you gotta be careful because it can go bad and it can kill you because it's fermented food and food poisoning is a thing. And you need to be careful about it. And this book has like next to no explanations of that. And I just feel like maybe we shouldn't be telling people to make their homemade booze. You know? Like, that just felt really not great. And again, it's not something I know. I'm never probably ever gonna make my own drinks because, like, it's convenient to just go to the store. That said, don't love that. And again, with explaining stuff and having disclaimers and warnings, if a real witch wants to do that stuff, it's fine. Those warnings are there for a reason, though. They're not there in this book, really. And I don't know, just overall the book was just kind of meh. So anyways, those are my thoughts on this book. I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. I do post videos every single day, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I do have a Patreon if you want to support me over there. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and bless be.